Joined now by James Grimes, who's the head of education at the charity Gambling with Lives. And James, morning to you. Welcome. When you see that report there, you know exactly when that gentleman was saying you're stripping pennies out of the pockets of people who don't have enough as it is. You know exactly the kind of issues that can escalate from being exposed to gambling.
I do, and it's no surprise that more and more people are standing up against this, because this is something that is impacting a lot of people. I know myself, I'm from a town not too dissimilar to Boston, and I placed my first bet at 16 years old, a £5 football bet in a bookies like that. And as a kid, the bookies in our town was like quite a small, hidden, windowless venue that I was actually quite scared of. And then one day in my teens, that got replaced by a huge red global brand with flashing lights and loads of machines in there. Is it any wonder that young people are drawn into these? And, you know, it quickly consumed all of my days, all of my life, and it did take all my money. I think people think that gambling addiction is just a financial addiction, but it bankrupts so much more than that. It bankrupts your life prospects, it bankrupts your mental health, and that's the thing that I regret the most. It was an awful place to be in.
How old were you when you made your first bet or went into a betting shop?
I was 16, so I was underage. I'd hope the age verification checks now are better, but reality is young people do gamble. And you know, it got to a point where I couldn't imagine a life with gambling anymore, and I couldn't imagine a life without it. It was the first thing that I thought about when I woke up. It was the last thing that I thought about when I went to bed. And there were days, many nights, where I didn't want to wake up. And on the other side of all this, of course, were gambling companies that were profiting from my addiction, from my misery, and never at any point asked if I was okay, asked if I could afford to lose the money that I was losing, both on inland and online, by the way. And that's why people are demanding change from the government. This has to come from government.
The Betting and Gaming Council says that, you know, age verification checks are improved. They're doing new things to stop under 18s from seeing gambling adverts. Is enough being done?
No, I think as well that the argument really does focus on children gambling, but this is beyond that. What it is for me, it's what you're storing up for a generation of young people. So when they are legal age to gamble, they've been completely normalised to them, these addictive products that they think these are just harmless, risk-free, innocent things that everybody should do. I work in schools now, and it honestly scares me the amount of young people that are either already gambling or have all the apps downloaded on their phone. And we speak to like the safeguarding and wellbeing people at the schools, and they tell us the amount of times there's concerns with young people gambling, and we need to make them a much greater friction between this harmful addictive product and young brains.
And you talked about all the different things that it bankrupts. And the other thing, of course, is it isn't just the gambler who's affected. It puts an incredible strain on the wider family.
Yeah, how I see it is addiction is like an earthquake, and when you're in the epicenter of that, you feel the harm most, as I did, but actually the waves and the ripples and the aftershock impact so many things and so many people, and the cost to society is huge. I think a report last week actually said the cost to UK society of gambling harm is £1.8 billion. But you know, this isn't just a financial argument. Actually, the cost to society and mental health is bigger than that, and people lose their life because of this.
How do you balance that? Because the industry, you know, the Gaming Council says it employs 100,000 people, and in normal times contributes to more than £3 billion a year to the exchequer. So it's not an industry that's going to go away, is it? And I don't think it would be realistic even to try to campaign, you know, to get rid of it. It is more about that level of responsibility and duty of care, isn't it?
Definitely. And gambling isn't going to go away. No one is calling for that to happen. There will still be jobs, there will still be tax, but preventative public health measures would do a lot to prevent the harm in the first place. And, you know, I got to a point where I didn't want to be here anymore, and there are hundreds of people that are dying every year because of gambling-related suicide. And I would ask, what price do you put on a life? And those families that have been left behind, you know, to talk to them about jobs and tax, it means very little to them.
Just to take advantage of your experience, just briefly, if someone is watching now and says, actually, I recognise, you know, what James is saying there, that there's me in that, just one help, a bit of helpful advice, just taking the first step towards stopping if you feel you have a problem?
It would be, please don't think that this is all your own fault. There is hope, there is help. Gambling does not have to define you. There is a life free of gambling waiting for you. Speak to people, install GamBan and GamStop. If you're worried about a loved one, look at GamFam, and please do everything you can to try and recover from this horrible addiction.
James, thank you so much. James Grimes, Head of Education from Gambling with Lives, thank you.
If you've been affected by any of the issues raised in the discussion that we've just been having with James, though, you can also find help and advice, in addition to the things that James suggested, by going to the BBC Action Line website. There's the address on the screen. It's bbc.co.uk/Action Line. They can link through there to other places that can help.
22 minutes to 10 is the time.